And we are live. Welcome, Warren Scene, to our show. Before we start, we've done 5 continents. We've done interviews with people, and you are the first one in the great continent of Asia, which has like half of all the humans in the world. And you're the first person from Asia that we've interviewed. So,
Excellent.
welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's good to be here. It's lovely to meet you both, Mike and Ro. And I'm very happy to be representing half the world's population this morning.
Like one more to go. We just now you were a journalist, right, Warren?
I was, yes. I was journalist.
You know anybody down in like one of the Antarctic stations or anything?
You know, that was always at the top of my wish list. Sadly, that never happened.
We've got to get Antarctica now.
Sorry?
So we need someone in Antarctica that we can interview. That way we can say we're bald and balding worldwide.
Right. Well, I'll get right on that. Let's see if I can arrange for that to happen by the time book 3 comes out. You can interview.
I just thought your many contacts that you might have somebody in your Rolodex that.
I've got more than a few people in my Rolodex that I could leverage, but I haven't done that yet. But now I have the perfect excuse. I'm going to go ahead and do that.
Mike and Ro want to talk to you.
I might even aim for space after that one if you'll have me on the show a third time. Let's see if we can do it from low Earth orbit.
Antarctica first, then we'll go for the ISS.
Yeah, let's start small and aim higher afterwards.
That's right.
And then maybe Elon will have somebody in a moon base, and we can go for the moon after that.
There it is.
Perhaps. I'm not so sure I want the moon. I want a bit further. I mean, the moon is lovely. It'd be a nice stop off. Yes, absolutely.
My God, it's Mike. Mike's been just me. So you are calling in from
Bangkok.
Very exotic. Okay, so you are on about 10 o'clock tomorrow morning right now?
I am at 8:03 the following morning for you. Yes, so I think it's a 12-hour difference.
Yeah, all right.
Okay.
So looking forward into the future tomorrow. Is he still alive?
I'm afraid so, yes. Yeah.
All right.
Can't help you with that one.
Okay.
But the weather's good.
What a world we live in where I can say that and everybody knows who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That should
necessarily
say
a good
right
thing,
there.
though, Ro, I have to say.
What's that?
That's not necessarily a good thing.
No, it's not. It wouldn't be the way I would want to. Anyway.
So if you suddenly disappear off the screen, we know what's happened.
No, it's not me. Being our first person calling in from Asia.
Yes.
And I have to ask this: who did you piss off to get contacted to us?
Oh no, it was a fellow author actually. I'm a member of a very small group, and it was an author called Mike Cahoon, who you had on, I believe, maybe about a month ago now, who wrote a book. It's called The Scion or the Scion Conspiracy, right? If I'm getting that right.
The Scion Conspiracy. Yep.
Oh, thank God! Otherwise, Mike would kill me. So yes, so he posted. I actually don't know him. I only know him through the group, in that kind of we know each other through the internet kind of way. And he posted something about it, said that he'd had fun, and that you guys were looking for other people to interview, and so here we are.
And we might talk about your book at some point in the next hour. No guarantee.
That would be really nice. Thanks. I'd appreciate that.
We might get there.
Okay. That's me.
What did you do to that horse? Oh, the unicorn.
It's a unicorn. It's a carnivorous unicorn.
Yeah, it is. Good God.
Yes. Yeah.
With a spiked collar, no less.
With a spiked, it belongs to a djinn, so it has attitude.
Okay.
Yes, it's a bodyguard. It's actually only a bit player. That I think the book cover I love the book cover. It's fantastic. It was done actually by an American artist. His name is Jake Caleb, who is a lovely person to work for. And when we had the chat about the book, I was talking about all these ideas, and this is going on, and that's going on, and this is happening, and that's happening, and he's like, and he kept coming back to the unicorn. He's like, the unicorn, but you said there's a unicorn, and I said, look, the unicorn is in there for like 3 paragraphs. That's it out of the entire book. He's like, no, the unicorn, and I think he was right. I love the cover. I think it's really fun. It captures the book nicely.
I think my favorite thing about it is the pink fuzzy dice.
Yes. Well, they're masquerading. That's actually the seal of Suleiman, and the gentleman in the photograph is Zander, who is my hero, and he has now become the reluctant bearer of the seal, and the seal chooses to manifest in different ways throughout history, usually in slightly obscene manners, but luckily for us, and luckily for the book cover, for the purposes of the 22nd century, it manifests as a pair of pink fuzzy dice.
22nd.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, I know. The background is kind of ancient Egypt, isn't it? So the book is set between the two worlds. So it's set between 22nd century London, which, like the rest of the world, the world has all fallen to pieces. England's fragmented. The new English capital is Birmingham. London's an independent republic. Everywhere else is broken up and reconfigured over the
Birmingham is
course of
unlikely. Let's be honest. Birmingham is pretty unlikely.
Well, Birmingham is the UK's second city, so that's why I went for there, and also because my mother lived there, and so I know the city a little bit. So it made sense for me. I have to say, very quietly, I don't particularly like Birmingham, but even I have to admit that in the 30-odd years that I'd been going there, the city changed radically, and it's actually quite an amazing place now. So I think it would make a capable capital. Of course, it's not London, but it would make a capable capital.
So what's your background? Where are you from?
Oh, how long do you have? We've only got an hour.
We got your book up, so we can talk about anything.
So the simple answer is that I am British and I'm from London. The more truthful answer is that I am half Indian, hence the Singh in the name. That's from my mother. And I was born to my never-ending delight in Pakistan, which means that I am on so many lists when I travel that it isn't even funny. And even when I go to Pakistan and India, when I go to Pakistan, because I have Singh in my name, and it is officially in my proper name as well as my pen name, they want to know how I could possibly be a Singh and have been born in Pakistan. And then when I go to India, they want to know how I could possibly have been a Singh or be a Singh and have been born in Pakistan and have family in India. How is that possible? So it's great fun. And then, of course, traveling through various other countries, I get degrees of being grilled. So I have plenty of experience of airport hospitality.
You are the personification of the V&E.
I am the personification of something. Look, I honestly, I don't do that badly. I'm making this out to be, a terrible chore. I do get dragged aside. I have spent more than a few hours in the company of various different immigration/security services as they probe into the mysteries of the Singh in my name and the Pakistani birthplace. But I mean, I also get hysterical responses from people, like even from people in India and Pakistan, who say, "Does that mean that you were born when England was, ruling India?" And I'm like, well, not really, because I was born in 1968, and I'm fairly certain that you were both independent by that point in time. But that's the automatic default they go to.
It was 1947, right?
It was 1947, yes.
Yeah, because that was my first thought too. And then it's like, no, you're not that old.
Well, I mean, if I was born in 1947, I'm doing something that the big cosmetic companies obviously need to tap into. I look great.
Yeah, I want to know your skincare routine. That's fantastic.
Absolutely. Well, it's in the book. It's in the book. You'll have to read the book. No, I'm lying. It's not in the book at all.
Nice.
Well done. So when you were a journalist, who did you write for?
I was a freelance for 20 years that I was in Lebanon. And I chose, as I always do in life, the less obvious path. And so when I moved to Beirut, instead of writing about what was then the Israeli occupation of Lebanon, which is also now the Israeli occupation of Lebanon, but what was then the Israeli occupation of Lebanon and the Syrian occupation of Lebanon and the various conflicts around the region, I decided that what I was going to write about, because everybody writes about conflict in the Middle East, I was going to write about art, architecture, people, fun things to try and bring Lebanon and the Middle East to life. And that was this very deliberate desire to go against the grain, which is kind of my life. But I also really felt that that was something that was worth doing, at least at that point in time in English language media. If you read about the Middle East, it was really just about conflict, or it was about a famine or something terrible. And yet, it's this incredible region full of amazing people who do the most incredible things, often in the worst circumstances imaginable. And so I wanted to shine a bit of a light on that. So I did that. So there is a British magazine called Wallpaper, which sounds like it should be about, stuff that you put on your walls, but it's not. It's an architecture/design magazine. So I was their correspondent for 20 years in Beirut and covered the region for them. But if you want some big names, I wrote for the Financial Times occasionally. I had 2 pieces in the New York Times. I did something for the LA Times, but that was such a long time ago. I don't even remember what that was. Other big names. He says scrambling. I did something for The Economist once, but it was mostly stuff for Wallpaper and then regional magazines and a couple of Asian magazines. So I had all of these different hats. So I did actually do conflict for a while as well. So particularly at the beginning when I was working for Wallpaper, I would go down to South Lebanon in the morning, write about what was going on there for a Lebanese newspaper that no longer exists, which would usually be about someone being bombed, someone being kidnapped, something going on, something terrible happening. And then I would come back to Beirut in the afternoon and I would go and meet an architect and go and see the absolutely incredible house that they were building. So I had this really kind of split Jekyll and Hyde life, which I loved being able to do that. I could be serious in the morning and then less serious in the afternoon. So it was fun.
How old were you when you started doing that?
That's a good question. I'm going to have to go backwards in time and lie about my age. 16. No, I was, I must have been 29, 28, 29. Yeah, probably about 28, 29 when I started doing that.
So you spent your 20s as a misanthrope?
Am I a misanthrope?
I said, did you spend your 20s as a misanthrope?
Oh, no, I spent my 20s my late 20s, teaching Japanese school children how to say good morning, how are you for 3 years and getting nowhere with it. So they knew what to say in the classroom, but if I said absolutely the same thing to them in the corridors when I ran into them, they'd just look at me with big wide eyes and run away. But I love Japan. I'm not saying anything against Japan. I was technically a Japanese civil servant for 3 years because it is a program actually called JET, which is run by the Japanese Ministry of Education. So technically, I have been a Japanese civil servant.
So where haven't you been might be the easiest way to go about this.
Antarctica.
Did you notice how I skillfully avoided telling you where I'm actually from? There you go. See, I'm very good at this. So let me go back to this, and I'll tell you where I have been. So I was born in Pakistan. I lived in Pakistan and India for a bit, but very short periods. I have family in India, so I go back, or I was going back regularly to see them. I have lived obviously in the UK, but I've lived in lots of different parts of the UK. So there isn't really one place in the UK that I'm from, which is why I say London, because that's where I went to college. I lived in Taiwan, I lived in Brazil, I lived in Japan, I lived in Lebanon, I lived in Dubai, I lived in Spain, I lived in China, and now I'm in Thailand. So that tells you where I've lived. Travel mostly in Asia. North Africa, I know the very tip of South Africa. I don't know the rest of Africa, to my abiding shame. Europe, I don't know terribly well either, because I've mostly been in Asia or the Middle East for most of my life. Been everywhere in the Middle East. Well, actually, apart from, I haven't been to Yemen, and I haven't been, sadly, and I never made it to Algeria. But everywhere else in the Middle East, I never made it to Libya and Algeria. So everywhere else in the Middle East I've been. Went to Iraq, actually, after one of your former presidents declared that the war was over, and went for PBS. And I went with an American friend of mine who was a really serious journalist, as opposed to me, who was just writing about fluff. And we actually ended up filming for the first time on US TV Ayatollah Sistani. We had an interview with him in Najaf, who was then seen as an emerging figure in amongst the Shiites, and the Americans, or at least PBS, and this was a show called Religion and Ethics, in that marvelous PBS, very, very earnest kind of way that they title shows. They'd never heard of him. And so they were like, do you really think he's worth interviewing? We're like, yeah, well, we kind of do. We think he's going to be a big issue. And so we interviewed him, and we also filmed Muqtada al-Sadr. We managed to get into his, if you know who he is, he was a big militia figure he's a big religious figure who had a very large militia, who became a very major thorn in assorted sides in the ensuing years afterwards. And we got him for the first time on American TV. And yet here I am in Bangkok with no job, running out of money. So it got me nowhere in the end, but it was fun.
So what brought you, not to Bangkok, but
Yes.
where were you when you decided, hey, I know what I'll do. I'll go to Bangkok and spend a year without a job, and I'll write my book, and that will fund me.
Yes. Like all clever decisions, that one came to me while I was having coffee in the morning, and it just seemed like the absolute perfect thing to do. I was in Beijing. So I was in Beijing for 5 years before I came here. I actually moved there 10 days before China closed the borders for 3 years and ensured that we weren't able to leave at all. It was the beginning of COVID. Well, it was kind of, I suppose for them, it was 3 months into COVID at that point in time. So yes, I arrived on the day that we had mandatory quarantines for two weeks. So I was taken straight from the airport in total chaos because it was the first day that they were doing this and no one really knew what was going on. Subsequently, they did, and it was very fast, but it took us 12 hours to get from the airport to the hotel. Yes, so that was where that happened. That was one sunny morning, and as I was having coffee, contemplating my day ahead, thinking how lucky I was to be in China, but then also not wanting to do the job that I was doing, and having just watched, I think, who had I just watched? I just watched someone who was talking about back catalog, back catalog, back catalog. This is what you need. This is how you're going to succeed. And I thought, yes, back catalog, but I'm not going to have time to do that. And I'm running out. I'm 55 years old, and I need to get a back catalog soon. So I'm 57 now. But that was before that book had come out. And I thought, yes, I'm going to do this somewhere. And it took me about 2 years to figure out where, and I ended up here. Yes.
And how's it going?
Well, the writing is going really, really well.
Yeah.
So when I arrived in September last year. I had one novel and one spin-off novella. The novel is published. The spin-off novella I give away to people who sign up to my newsletter. Sorry, I had to slip that in there somewhere. I now have, it took me a bit longer to get settled than I thought it would, but I now have a second novel and a second novella. And I've started work on the final book in the trilogy, which should be finished probably, I think, by around the end of May or maybe the beginning of June. So I'm aiming for a launch of the second book in the series, which is always going to riff off the gin thing. And the second book is called A Gin and Bear It Situation. And that's going to be coming out in May. And then I will bring out the conclusion to the trilogy either at the end of July or the beginning of August, depending on when I'm able to get the cover for that. And then by then I will have 3 novels and 3 novellas. So in those terms, it's going very well. In terms of Warren's bank account, it's not doing so super great. But, you know, at the end of the day, I knew that this was a huge gamble. And I've decided to do that because I wanted to try and jump the queue a bit and get to that stage where when people land on my page, they don't just have one book and then wonder when all the others are coming out. They then have a series to read if they then choose to do that.
Now, you would think that would be a great thing. And when Craig Martell says your backlist,
Him, it's his fault. It's his fault.
Yeah,
absolutely, Craig. I blame Craig Martell. Craig, if you're listening,
let me tell you
that I'm here and I'm running out of money.
And I've got 10 books and a couple of novellas, and I couldn't
and
buy.
You're a multimillionaire?
What's that?
Are you a multimillionaire?
No.
Oh.
I'm not a multi-centionaire.
Oh no! Don't tell me these things. Don't tell me these things.
Not a multi-peso. Turkish lira, maybe.
But in rupees.
Ah, yes. Oh, there you go.
Killing it.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
No, I think, but your probably doing a lot more of the work, right? I mean, you're obviously advertising and doing all that stuff. I'm trying to sign up for your book.
Are you? Is it not working?
It's like almost finished. We just need to confirm your email address. Oh, you know what?
Oh, yes. No, that's because of Europe.
So, Ro, while you're doing that, it's perfect segue for me to say, for all you people who loved Proxima Station,
read that book.
Well, book 2 is now available, and I just got the paperbacks today. So
excellent.
And Proxima Station is free on Kindle, along with Becoming a Druid and Haley Traveler. So the first book in all 3 of my series, that none of them have been completed, you can get for free.
Sounds amazing. I shall be signing up soon too.
Oh, you don't have to sign up. Just go to Amazon, get it for free.
Oh, really? Okay, good. I will definitely do that. You know, one of the things that another thing that I've really enjoyed about this whole taking the year off is that I have to admit, even though I am an indie author, until very recently, and by very recently I mean about 2-3 months ago, I wasn't actually reading other indie authors because I was really just focused on the writing, and I read very slowly, and so I was tending towards books that, you know, everyone reads. But then at the end of last year, I thought, this is very bad. You are an indie author. You're trying to persuade other people that your book is worth reading. You should at least read other indie authors. And so I've started doing that. And I've managed to read 4 novels. As I say, I'm a very slow reader, and I've managed to read 4 novels so far. And they have been absolutely cracking. I have really, really, really enjoyed them all. And if you would maybe give me a bit of grace, I'd like to mention them if you don't mind.
Please. That was my next question, was what are they?
Great. So the last one that I just finished is called Phoenix Rises, Dragon Soars, and it is set in a world that is based on Imperial China. So it's not martial arts, it's magic. It's a dark fantasy. It's part of a trilogy. The second book is coming out fairly soon. I'm very excited about that. And that's by a writer called Charlotte Salter. And it's really, really good. I absolutely tore through that. The one I'm reading at the moment is hilarious. It's by an author called Alex French, and it's called Carpentry in the Elven Forest, which basically tells you absolutely everything that you need to know about the book. It's snarky. It's hilariously funny. There's a talking badger, which won my heart immediately. And it's the most implausible story possible. It's comedy, obviously, given the title. Although I believe he's also now working on something that's much darker, because everyone seems to be working on something that's much darker. Right. I've never really understood, because we live in this dark world. Why do you want to read darkness and live in a dark world? I'd rather read something that's kind of fun and frivolous, or at least positive. And then the next one that I'm going to read is by an author called Keon Shaw, who is based in Barcelona, but I believe it's part Spanish, but I think is also part American. And that's called The Bad Apothecary, and that's following through again on my the kind of Imperial China thing, although it's not explicitly Imperial China, but it's an Asian adjacent world, an Eastern Asian adjacent world. And that, I'm not entirely certain what it's about, but I loved the title. And so on that basis alone, I'm going to read it. And that's kind of often the way I'm choosing this, because, you know, people say never judge a book by its cover, and some of these covers are maybe not the greatest covers, because it's hard to get a good cover and it's expensive to get a good cover. But you read the books, and the stories and the ideas are just so refreshing, and they're so different. And it makes such a nice change to the usual fantasy, the usual sci-fi. And I absolutely love that about indie writing now. I'm totally hooked.
We discussed that a little bit before, about how, you know, especially with these people like Craig Martell and others out there, it's all kind of raising the game for all authors. I mean, it's not, you know, throw some shit up anymore, and it's professionalizing the indie writing sphere.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. Hey, we have a question here from someone who I've never seen before. Hello. Woohoo! And by all means, please like and subscribe if you haven't done that already. Not bad, Mike. Only 24 minutes in. I have a question for you all. I want to start reading philosophy, but don't know where to start. I would suggest a different podcast. I want to build some foundation, and then we'll start reading boring things. Yeah, I don't know where to go with that.
Well, I mean, first of all, can I attempt that? I'm not going to pretend that I know anything about this.
If the word philosophy is in it, you have at it.
Okay. Well, I would suggest then you would have to decide first of all which kind of tradition of philosophy you want to follow, because of course you have the Western canon, which would begin basically with the Greeks. You would have Plato and Aristotle and all of these people who are a great place to start with. But then you also have the Indian canon, you have the Chinese canon, you have all of these different canons of philosophy. So it really kind of depends what you're looking for. And in terms of foundational, I think you really do have to go back to the very beginning, even though maybe what's more relevant to you is kind of the 19th century or the 20th century philosophers, say like, I don't know, like the Hegels of the world. But I think that would be a good place for this reader to start, decide what they want, which canon, and then explore the very foundational texts of that canon and start from there. And Arabic philosophy, for example, a lot of it is based off of the Greek and the Persian texts. So you have the Persians as well, who are different to the Greeks, and you have the Arabs who are different to everybody. So it really kind of depends what you want. If you're into, here you go, one more plug for the Arabs, because yay, Arabs. If you want to read philosophy that's also associated more closely with, let's say, the stars, and I don't mean in an astrological way, I mean kind of in an astronomical way, then the Arabs are a good bet. And so are the Indians. The ancient Indians are a good bet to start with. Sorry, I diverted there. I'm very verbose, as you notice. It's the 30 years.
That was the most educated minute we've ever had on 300.
Yes, without a doubt.
You're going to have hundreds of people writing in now saying, what was he saying? That's absolute rubbish. I studied philosophy for 15 years and I don't know anything about it. I haven't heard anything about it.
Trust me. Our audience is not going to say that.
I was going to say, in hundreds, Ro. He said hundreds of people are going to see this.
That's the other problem. Right.
Thousands.
So, Talmaron, I hope that answers your question. And when you want to start reading the boring thing afterwards, Mike?
There
you go.
Well,
so
Aristotle,
that's where you go
Plato.
next.
There you go. There. No, you start with our books. They're deeply philosophical, all of them.
Yeah.
Deeply. Yes. Mine draw on very ancient roots. So yes.
So, Warren, before I forget, and the fact that I haven't yet is a small miracle. Okay. A book I want to recommend to you. Do you like? Do you read sci-fi at all? Like sci-fantasy?
Absolutely.
So, Wistful Ascending by J.C.M. Byrne.
Okay.
The main character is actually Indian.
Okay.
And he has Superman-like powers, and he's out in space.
Okay.
And there's action, there's banter, there's pop culture references. It's completely irrelevant and just a great, great story.
Oh, excellent. Well, I'll definitely check that out. I do have the Band Apothecary to read next, but I will check that out after that one.
So I think just with the books you described and how you kind of like, tongue in cheek, I'm like, you will actually love Joe Byrne's books.
Oh, great. I'll definitely check him out.
And I think there's only 8 so far in his series, so
Only 8. Oh, dear.
Only 8.
Right.
Well, he says there's going to be 23, I think, in the series when he's finished, so...
Oh, my God. Good for him. Yeah. Good for him. Yes, well, I mean, I assuming I live long enough, I have at least that many in me as well. But, all of that depends on whether any of these sell and also on factors beyond my control. But yes, I mean, I can totally see myself with 23 or 28 or 67 books at some point in time in the future. It's addictive, isn't it, this writing thing? It
is.
Yeah, it is.
It really is.
Well, not really. I do it for the money.
Well, I think that's, why not?
I have a sign I hold when I'm on the corner, says, writer, please feed.
Well,
pay me or I'll read from my book.
Bro, if I ever pass you on the corner, I promise that I will leave you some money and a copy of my book. So you have something to read and something to read while you eat.
Excellent. Before I ask about the Djinn, or the Jinn, I don't know how it's pronounced.
I think it's just Jinnin.
Okay. Shit, what was I going to ask? There it is again.
Right.
Hold on. Let me look at my notes. What's your plan after your year is up?
Well, that's so nothing
Fame
to do
and
with
fortune.
Tim then. Okay. Yes, absolutely. Fame and Fortune.
Go do my Netflix thing.
Netflix series. And I've already got the. Well, actually, I'm lying. I don't have the casting worked out, but I have thought about it occasionally. What will I do? Well, look, I've even more, perhaps ridiculously, foolishly, actually budgeted. Big word. Took me a long time to learn. Very, very long time to learn. I've budgeted for 2 potentially totally income-free years. I really will be running on nothing but spirit at the end of those 2 years, but I'm hoping it won't get to that. So the plan is I get the 3 books out, the 3 novels out, finish the trilogy, finish the novellas, and then what I'm going to try and do, instead of writing immediately another book, I actually have another novel that I wrote before this, which can be resurrected. That's also part of a different trilogy. And I'm halfway through writing something that's set in 10th century Baghdad as well. But I'm going to leave those to one side, and I am going to do the thing that all authors hate doing, which is market. And I'm going to spend at least 6 months of that second year just focusing on getting on massively popular podcasts like your own and promoting my novel as much as I possibly can, and trying to get word out there, because, you know, as you both know, it's a huge market. There's so many books. You are fighting against so much noise, and you know, the usual channels for me here, which would, I suppose, be the TikToks of the world, don't really work, because unfortunately the way TikTok works is it kind of looks at what your account, the number your account is tied to, and my account is tied to a Thai number, and so I'm producing content in English about an English language sci-fi book, and it's mostly getting shunted out to a Thai audience who, bless them, don't care, because why would they? It's not aimed at them. But trying
and
to
you have to be very
circumvent that.
careful not to insult like the king or something, right?
Oh, well, that's illegal here. So yes, you can
Right,
actually
exactly.
be tried. You can be tried for that.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't have conversations about royalty at all. No, I steer clear of those. But in UK terms, I am firmly, and don't confuse this with your political party, I am firmly a Republican, as in I would like a dissolution of the monarchy in the United Kingdom. But here I don't, you know, this is up to the Thais, it's their country. If they like this, this is wonderful for them. It's nothing to do with me.
No, I'm just
this is how you live in the Middle East for 20 years, and you end up looking as good as I do. You just, you know, you are polite and respectful, and you don't say things like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" Because it doesn't lead in a good direction generally.
When I was in Saudi Arabia, they would tell us if like the Mutawa or anyone come up to you and you're walking with a mixed gender group, they say just take the woman and push her to the front. Let her do all the talking, and they will leave you alone.
They will leave you alone. But you'll be very pleased to know that Mutawa don't exist anymore. I mean,
thank goodness.
They do technically exist. The department exists, but they're no longer in the streets. They haven't been for quite a long time. And actually, Saudi Arabia,
quite a long time since I've been there. So
yes, so you can go. You can go as a tourist now. They're giving tourist visas.
Yeah, you know, no.
I would like to go. I would love to go.
There are beach resorts in Saudi Arabia. There's amazing diving.
There's still a beach. There is a lot of beach.
There is a lot of beach.
Yeah.
So don't count Saudi out.
3 miles.
You know, forget Miami, Saudi Arabia. That's your next destination, Ro.
No,
Warren. Oh,
yeah. Go ahead.
Just selfishly,
yes.
I want you to write that book about in Baghdad. Did you say, or the Middle East at least?
Yes.
Because I would love to read like Persian. I know Persian is Iran, but you know, Persian or Middle East, anything set there. I would love to read something like that, and there's just nothing.
Oh no, there's quite a lot. So I mean, you know, do you know of is it the Devabad trilogy by Shannon Chakraborty? So she has written the first one, I believe, and forgive me if I get this wrong, I believe the first one was called The City of Brass. And so she has completed the trilogy. Hers is epic fantasy, features jinn as well. It's based on a, let's say, kind of 10th, 11th century Middle East. So it's Perso-Arab. So she's completed that trilogy. I think it might even be more. I'm going to say it's more than a trilogy, but it's definitely a trilogy. And she has another book that's come out called The Adventures of Amina al-Sarafi, which is about I believe, a pirate girl. I haven't read that because piracy was big in the Middle East, as it was everywhere, really. But people don't tend to write about that, and that's kind of fun. So it has South Asian inflections, but it is more of a kind of Baghdad, Persia kind of thing. So there is stuff out there.
Piracy is kind of how the U.S. Navy got its feet.
The Pirates of Barbary.
Barbary pirates,
Yep.
right?
Absolutely.
We were paying them tribute for a while, and the second or third president said, "Yeah, enough of this shit. Build some ships."
Yeah.
Jefferson.
And the rest is history.
Yeah. So how about that?
If you haven't seen the Fat Electrician,
learn a thing or two. Man,
if you haven't seen you have to check out the Fat Electrician's thing when he talks about the Barbary pirates. It's hysterical.
Fat Electrician's great.
He's a great storyteller in any case.
Okay. Just does little bits of U.S. military history.
Oh, okay.
It's fantastic.
Interesting.
So I've got two other questions for you, but or several other.
Okay.
The Djinn, the Djinn.
Yes.
Why a Djinn? And
Why Djinn?
How big of a character is she in your story?
Okay. So why Djinn? Because they are marvelously mischievous, and they aren't on anyone's side apart from their own, and they have a very ambiguous relationship with humanity. So, and also because one of the main characters in my book is Suleiman, aka Solomon, who Solomon in the Jewish tradition is a magician, and a very powerful magician. In the Islamic tradition, Solomon is the master of jinn. So this is why we have the connection, because I wanted to have Solomon, and so we logically have the jinn. And without revealing, actually, I'm not going to do any spoilers, but in the first book, the jinn are kind of associated with another villain and play a slightly minor role. By the end of the first book, it becomes clear that they're going to play a much larger role in the second book. And in the second book, they do play a much larger role. They are involved in a conspiracy, and that conspiracy is not a pretty one. And this is what our heroes have to battle against. And so they take there may be, in the first book, there may be 20% of the first book. In the second book, it's a 50-50, and in the third book, it will also be a 50-50, because the original villain from book one is going to become something else in book three. He doesn't appear in book two. So I'm being very sorry. I'm being very cryptic. Maybe I should say more.
No,
so
okay. Is this one of these, 3 wishes things? Because I understood that the whole 3 wishes thing is like a fabrication of Disney or something, and unlimited wishes, which means one had to be very, very careful all the time.
Yes, all the time. Yes. So that is a slight Disneyfication, because, as you know, contemporary capitalism does not like to reward us with unlimited pleasure, and so therefore you only get 3. But as you say, wishing for anything with the jinn is a double-edged sword. You have to be very, very, very explicit about what you want, because their tendency, because they are innately mischievous, is to interpret your wish the way they see fit, not the way you necessarily intend. So there is no wishing on this, apart from my hero Xander wishing he wasn't dragged into all of this, because the jinn, having had to put up with us basically for the last couple of thousand years, are sick to the back teeth, actually sick to the third row of back teeth of humanity, and really don't want to have anything more to do with us, and would much rather that we really weren't around at all. So in the Islamic tradition with the jinn, they were God's first creation, and they were favored by God until we came along, and then we took their place, and they haven't really been very happy about that ever since, which is where you get that kind of double-edged sword thing coming in. So yes, they are obliged to do what we want them to do, but they will only do it in a way that kind of benefits them and maybe skewers us in the process. So they decided they don't want to do any of that. They want all of that ended, and they find a clever way of trying to pull that off. And so this is what our heroes battling against. So they become a bigger and bigger and bigger part of the story. So I have a character who's called the Red Prince, who initially appears as someone who is sympathetic to our character, and it swiftly becomes clear that maybe that initial interpretation is not quite as it seemed. Yes. So, and to confuse things even further, the first book is set in the 22nd century Republic of London and also the Egyptian afterlife. And then the second book is not set in either of them. Well, it's set partly in 22nd century of London, 22nd century Republic of London, but it's actually then set in space. So this is why it's a sci-fi fantasy. And then the third book is probably going to be back in the underworld again. So we're kind of flipping backwards and forwards between places. But it is all logical, I promise you.
So all of your travels kind of help flush out these cities and places that your character finds himself?
Well, I mean, you know, in terms of specific cities, the only places I'm really mentioning are London and Birmingham. So yes, to a degree, my experiences of those cities have helped me project the future of both of those places. My experiences as a journalist and watching the world and watching the desires of assorted different micro-nationalities to break away and form their own different reconfigure boundaries has informed my world as a whole. Unfortunately, I don't have any experience of outer space yet, so that's just purely my imagination. But what I would say is that everything that I have, as with every writer, all of my experiences of all of the world very deeply inform the way I write my characters, the way I perceive the world, the way I present the world. So yes, but the only specific would really be London and Birmingham.
So where is the strangest place you've been?
Oh, that's another long conversation.
And there's a follow-up to this as well. So
okay. Define strange.
I knew you were going to ask me that. However you want to define it.
Oh, that's such a cop-out.
Yeah, it does. I don't necessarily mean it has to be like, you know, naked bike ride in Oregon kind of strange. It could be any kind of just different.
I'll discount that one then. That's out the window. Right. Damn, I was going to lead with that.
Out of my head.
I was going to lead with that one. Strange. God, I don't even know. I honestly don't even know how you would, because strange is so different for so many. Strange is so specific. What would be strange to me?
Have you ever been a place where you? Yeah.
Honestly, strange for me tends to be the place that's not strange to everyone else, because I'm so used to being in very different places, very different to who I am, to my upbringing, because I've traveled so much, I've been to so many different places. Because of being a journalist, I've had access to so many different people and so many different experiences that it's very difficult to say strange. Okay, surreal. I'm sorry to bring war back into this. So surreal. When we went into Iraq in, God, when was it? I can't even remember now. I'm supposed to be a journalist.
2003?
So 2003. Was it 2003? I think it was 2003.
That was
something around that. Yeah. That was the first one. When we arrived at the border, we came in from Jordan. We drove in from Jordan. And when we arrived at the border, there was no border. So there was this little guy who was sitting there completely alone. There were no soldiers. There were no guards. There was nothing. Just rolled straight in. And he comes running out of his office and says, right, you need a visa. And we're like, sorry, who is issuing the visa? Because you don't actually have a government at the moment. Okay, how much is this visa? And he was like, $300. And we're like, I don't think so. But how about we don't give you anything? And so we bargained for a little bit. He wanted some money. Obviously, poor guy, you know, he's in the middle of nowhere. He probably was the original border guard, and now he doesn't have any money and he's not being paid. So we dickered him down. There was 6 of us, and so we dickered him down to I think it was $25 or $20 each. And then he pulled out this very, very old and very, very used syringe and said, now I have to give you injections. And we're like, yep, that is really not going to happen at all. Very politely, of course, because, you know, you have to be polite. And we're like, yep, that is not going to happen. But I'll tell you what, we'll give you an extra $10 each. And how about that? Will you let us into Iraq then? And then he kind of looked at us and said, yes, that will be fine. We can waive the health requirements. And he stamped us in. I'm not entirely certain what stamp he used. It certainly wasn't official. But he stamped us in and waved us very politely on our way and told us to be quiet, told us to be careful. So I would say that's possibly the strangest place I've been to.
And then 5 miles later, you hit the actual border. And
it was the actual border. No, it was the actual, and it was the original border post
really?
between I can't remember what it's called, but it was the original border post. So that was strange. But I mean, honestly, I go back to the UK, and I haven't lived in the UK. I've only spent. I'm British. I wasn't born there. I wasn't really brought up there. I worked out the other day that I'm 57, and I've spent 14 years of my life. I shouldn't say that because I'll probably take my passport away. I've spent 14 years of my life in the United Kingdom. So it is home in a sense. I do have my father's side of the family, what remains of them there. So I have relatives. I have ties. Obviously, I have the accent, and I am culturally, to a large degree, British. But going back to England, because I've not lived there full time since '93, and so honestly, that's kind of a strange experience for me going back, because this is a place that ought to be mine. It ought to be familiar, and increasingly when I go back, and I don't mean this in a bad way or a negative way, but it isn't, because I haven't lived there for such a long time. So it feels almost stranger than going to a brand new country and a brand new culture, because I expect things to be different when I go to a brand new culture or a brand new country. I expect things to be kind of the same when I go to the UK, and they never are.
No, absolutely not.
There's no going home.
This is kind of the same, but instead of a place, what is the oddest situation you've ever found?
So I suppose I probably answered that the first time around, didn't I? Oddest situation.
Because there had to have been a moment where it's probably a lot of moments where you've thought to yourself, what the fuck am I doing here?
Oh yeah, I mean, constantly. Most of them, unfortunately, are not particularly pleasant ones, so they either involve being bombed. Oh, here's a fun one. So I actually I did a non-fiction book. I walked the length of Lebanon in 2016 through the mountains. There's a national trail. It was the first national trail. Absolutely gorgeous. Obviously, not the right time to go now, but it's absolutely beautiful. So I wrote a book about that walk and used that to tell stories about the 20 years that I'd spent in Lebanon. And one of them was super fun. So, super fun, he says, in kind of journo ways. There's a little pocket of Lebanon that during the Israeli occupation of Lebanon, the original Israeli occupation of Lebanon, was severed from the country by the fence the Israelis built unilaterally, which didn't really follow the frontier. So there was an outcry over this. It was only one farm, and it was one family, and it was a small parcel of land. But the only way to get into it was to go through the Israeli border fence. And so that gate had to be left open, because once there was an outcry over the fact that this family had been cut off, so they weren't allowed access to Israel because they weren't Israelis, but then they weren't allowed access to Lebanon because the Israelis had cut them off. So they had to leave the gate open. So they got bombed, as tends to happen, and they were goat herders. Actually, they were originally olive farmers and fruit farmers, but then all of their trees were chopped down and burned. I shan't say by who, but they were chopped down and burned. And then they became goat farmers. And so, because obviously the Israelis didn't particularly love the idea of having a Lebanese family living in their territory and having a gate open, they were always trying to find ways to push them out. And so this time they decided to bomb the goats, and they killed the goats. So we went down to do a story. And so the farm was completely empty, because the guys had moved to a nearby town in Lebanon because they didn't feel safe anymore, obviously. We talked to them there. They asked us if, when we went into their farm, if we wouldn't mind looking for some documents for them. So the ownership, the paper, the property papers, and all of this, because they were scared that would disappear and then they would no longer have a claim. So we told them that we would do that. So we drove really, really, really slowly with big white flags hanging out of the windows, because up on the hills above us, there were Israeli military. In the trees around us, there were Hezbollah militants. And so basically either side could choose to take pot shots at us. So we had big flags that we were waving, driving super, super slowly, just in case people took it the wrong way. When we got to the farm, obviously all the goats were dead, everything smelled, it was terrible. But we were wandering around. I was taking notes and taking pictures, and I was completely absorbed in everything and not really paying any attention to my surroundings. And I walked around the corner of a building, and I walked straight into the barrel of a gun, which was pointed directly into my chest by a very young and a very nervous-looking gentleman who it turned out, thankfully, thank God, was, and I say this and you probably won't understand why, but you will in a second, turned out to be a member of a Palestinian faction that technically shouldn't have been there. And of course, he wanted to know what the hell I was doing there. I could see him kind of shaking, and so I'm trying to calm him down, and I have my hands up, and I'm like, and I'm speaking really slowly, like I'm totally fucking stupid, and I have no idea, and I'm just a stupid tourist, and I shouldn't be here, hoping that my colleague will come with me, and I could understand what he was saying. So, but I was just doing the whole "I'm a stupid foreigner, please don't kill me" kind of thing. And he didn't want to. He was just kind of stressed out that we were there because he didn't expect anyone to be there. My colleague, who was also a journalist, was of Jordanian origin, but of Jordanian-Palestinian origin. So this is why it turns out it's fortunate that he was Palestinian, because she comes over and she starts talking to him in a very slow, very calm manner, and he hears her accent. And he's like, "Oh, where are you from?" And then she says, "Oh, I'm Jordanian, but my family's originally from Nablus." And he looks at her and he's like, "You're lying." And she says, No, I have family in Nablus. It's difficult for us to visit, but we have been. And I've been many, many times. I still have my aunts and my uncles there. And he's like, "Where do they live?" And so she gives him the street name. And he kind of is a bit taken aback because it turns out that this guy is from Nablus as well. So, or was originally from Nablus. He isn't anymore, obviously. But so he's kind of taken aback by that. And they get chatting. The gun is still pointed at me, but he's no longer twitching. And then a couple of other guys come and join him. And we get into this long conversation about bakeries in Nablus, where you can get the best knefe from, and whether, I'm going to get the names wrong because I can't remember, it was a long time ago, but whether Abu Muhammad or Im Alia does the best pizzas. I mean, it's kind of, it's a Nablus thing. And so they were kind of weighing in on where you get the best pizzas from and where you get the best vegetables from. And that was enough, thankfully, to persuade him that we were just in the wrong place. We didn't mean anything by being there. And they let us go. And then we drove very, 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 very slowly back. So that was maybe the most surreal moment of my life. And that woman, without naming names, is now married into Jordanian royalty. So I was actually there with a princess journalist who helped get us both out of a very, very sticky situation in deep south of Lebanon.
So I have to know. Did you get the papers? Were you able to return the papers to you? Okay.
We got the papers. We got all the photographs. They didn't. I was also. This was film days, right? So this was. Well, I was using a film camera. You could have digital, but they were rubbish in those days. So I was really worried that they would take the film out of the camera and expose it. And that was, so I was kind of trying to hide it, and that just made him more nervous because I was trying to hide something, which I should have figured out, but I wasn't really necessarily thinking terribly clearly at that point in time. But luckily they didn't, and so we had the photographs and we got the documents, so we were able to sort that out. But they, I mean, obviously in subsequent years they've now been expelled. They're no longer there. They can't make a living. They don't have trees. They don't have goats. They didn't have money to buy another herd. So they kind of clung on for a couple more years, and then they went. So yes.
So
surreal.
Writing for you then is got to be like the most boring thing in the world. I mean, you kind of almost have to write fantasy just to have something that sneaks up on the level of interest of the stuff you've done for the last 30 years.
I mean, look, I have so many friends who have far better stories than I do, particularly journalist friends, because I did do conflict, but I wasn't a conflict journalist. The stories that you get out, and it sounds very cold to anyone who's not involved, but the stories that you get out of conflict as a journalist are the best stories you will ever write in your life. Not because of the horror, but because when you meet people, what they want to do more than anything else is to tell you absolutely everything that's just happened to them. And people generally like talking about themselves, but there's always kind of a degree of people being guarded, and do I say this or do I not say that? In that kind of a situation, particularly if you're encountering people immediately in the aftermath of something horrible happening to them, all they want to do is tell the world what's happened to them. And as a journalist, that kind of story writes itself. which makes it, and you get a level of access to people's lives that you mostly don't get otherwise. And that's an immense privilege. And it's a huge gift. And although what you're writing about is horrific, it's also super easy to write about because it's so compelling, because it's so human, because it's so real. And sorry, I've probably gone off on a tangent.
No, I mean, that's a good tangent, though, because
I do that quite often.
From the writing standpoint, that gives you really such a leg up on being able to develop characters and everything that come across to the reader as believable, right?
Yeah, I'm going to go with yes. And
yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. My heroes are totally relatable, even when they're gin. Totally relatable.
Or carnivorous unicorns.
Or the carnivorous unicorns, who are only actually in the book for 3 paragraphs. I do have to point this, they're only there for 3 paragraphs, and they're not coming back. But they do make a memorable appearance. They do make a memorable
appearance.
The
cover, you know. Hey.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. So yes, I suppose, I mean, the fantasy thing predated that. So I've read fantasy since I was a kid. And then when I became a journalist, I actually stopped reading nonfiction. For about 20 years, I didn't read anything that was nonfiction. And then when I stopped, or towards the end of stopping my journalism, I started to discover the delights of the fictional worlds again, and particularly fantasy and sci-fi. And I love sci-fi, even though I write fantasy. I have a deep and abiding passion for sci-fi, mostly the kind of more hopeful stuff. I don't really get into dystopian. I understand the appeal for people, but I've seen enough dystopia that I don't really want to read about it. I just want to read about something that's more hopeful.
Reading the other day, and I think it may have been on the BBC, where there is a new genre kind of emerging called solar punk.
Oh, yes. So
you've read it, you've seen about that.
I've seen like 27 different videos on TikTok about this. I didn't.
Oh, okay. So, Mike, have you heard about it?
I have not.
So, cyberpunk and steampunk and all that, it's all very kind of grimy and dirty and almost dystopian. Solar punk is the opposite of that. It's still like maybe the same aesthetic, but a much more kind of hopeful, sunny outlook. Because people are getting kind of bummed out with the the death and destruction and blah blah blah. Looking for something a little lighter, to get through the day.
Well, I mean, it's not just that it's lighter. It's something that gives you something to look forward to, right? Because if all you're reading about is how the megacorps are going to control our souls and that's the end of everything, I mean, it's kind of fun for a bit.
But then you read the newspaper and it's like, shit, that's not even fiction, right?
It's not even fiction, exactly. So I'm sorry, I'm reading a newspaper now. Why do I want to do that? I want to read something that's going to take me somewhere else and maybe give me different ideas. And I really love that about. I haven't read any solar punk, but I saw one video that was describing it as basically, Hayao Miyazaki, the Japanese animator, who does all of those like Spirited Away and all those kind of eco-associated fantasy films. They talked about how it was basically Hayao Miyazaki meets, God, who was the guy who did the first? Meets Philip K. Dick, but in a positive way. So it's basically the marriage of tech and the environment, and people leading lives that actually enrich them as opposed to impoverish them, both economically and spiritually. And I love that. Why not? That's what tech should be, right? Absolutely. I mean, it wasn't AI here to solve all of our problems so that we could just live lives of leisure forever. That was the idea, right?
And what do we get out of it? We get people riding carnivorous unicorns.
Well, no, we don't, because I don't use AI. I don't use AI.
No, not you. I'm saying that's what people would use it for, is to make pictures of that. So that brings up another question. Yes. Being in Thailand and having been on Fiverr a lot, you probably have access to people who are fairly decent artists over there.
Yes, I do.
And fairly inexpensive.
Yes, I do. But as you both probably know,
take advantage of that while you're there and get as much art out of them as you can.
I will. That's a good point, actually. I need character art.
You need character art. You need advertising art. You want art to go in your books. If you start doing Kickstarter kind of things, for special editions to put in there and all that.
Yes.
But yeah, if you're there in a place where you can get art, cheap.
Yes. Yeah, that's a good call. That's absolutely a good call. But in case Jake is watching this, don't worry, Jake. You've got my covers from here on in.
And where are you, Jake? You're not in the chat. Come on, man.
He's not, but Jake is probably working very hard. He's a busy young man. Jake, I believe, is somewhere in the southern United States. I'm going to say Georgia and then get that wrong, but it's
That's
somewhere
fine.
down that kind of area.
We wouldn't know. You've seen our education system. Have you been to North America?
I have.
Because you've not mentioned North America or the Western Hemisphere
North America.
at all.
New York. I've been to New York. I have great friends in New York. I absolutely love New York. I have been to San Francisco. Absolutely love San Francisco. I've been to Los Angeles. That was more of a mixed bag. I had friends who were living in Texas. So I've been to Austin. I've been to Dallas. I've been to Houston. Been to New Orleans, which I loved. I love the way people speak down there. I love the language that they use. It's so rich. You've got so much kind of old English phrasing, and that was a delight. I absolutely love that. And I've been to Minnesota, so I have been somewhere in the middle.
So you've hit the
coast, and then those bits.
Nothing in the middle.
The flyover states you just totally avoided. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm told. But now this surname does make life a little complicated for me coming to your great nation. So for the moment, I am avoiding doing that.
On behalf of 3/4.
No, come on. It's fine.
I'm sorry.
I will tell you, at work, one of my friends there, his name is Saeed Mohammed.
Okay.
And he goes, you know what? I am randomly selected every single time when I fly.
Me too. Whenever I fly through the US, randomly selected every time. Yes.
Amazing.
I love that randomness. I'm so lucky that I get selected for every flight. Yeah, no, it's great.
And he always complains.
I've been to Hawaii as well.
He always complains because his wife's name is Jennifer Mohammed, and she has never been randomly selected. Only him.
Right. Well, I mean, I think of it as rolling out the welcome.
Yeah.
There you go. They just want to get to know you better. They just want to get to know you better. I did have an interesting encounter once in Miami where the gentleman, I suppose it must have been Homeland Security, but the gentleman tried very vigorously for 4 hours to convince me that I was in fact Yemeni and I had Yemeni family. And he wanted to know where my Yemeni family were and whether any of my Yemeni family members were in the United States. And it was 4 hours of that. And he seemed very convinced that I was. And I did basically everything that I could to try and convince him, well, not convince him because it's the truth, but to try and get him to believe that I wasn't. And in the end, it was a stalemate and he let me go because he wasn't able to persuade me to admit to my Yemeni family members, who are scattered all over the United States, by the way. No.
And you can't really throw out that you're a journalist at that point because that's not going to help.
It doesn't help, but I mean, at that point in time, they want to know. Obviously, I had a passport full of the wrong border. And the wrong
China, Lebanon,
and so they wanted to know why, and so I said, I am a journalist. I write about a lot of different things, so I travel a lot around the region. That's why you will see all of these different stamps. Look, I obviously have personal views that I won't express in a public forum, but at the end of the day, they are trying to do a job. It is a very difficult job, and I don't necessarily begrudge countries wanting to keep themselves safe from potential threats because they obviously exist.
Sure.
What I do feel is that in some cases, it ends up in the territory of the ridiculous, like 4 hours, someone trying to tell you that you are actually Yemeni when your name is Warren and Singh and Bartlett, neither of which are great Yemeni names, and and then telling you that you were born in Yemen, and you're like, well, okay, well, if I was born in Yemen, show me where I was born in Yemen, because my passport very clearly says I was born in Pakistan, and believe you me, that isn't something you want to brag about these days. So it's not like I'm trying to tell you that I was born in Glasgow, which will be a great thing. I'm telling you I was born in Pakistan, which is the truth, and why would I,
if I was going to lie, why would I pick that?
Why would I pick that? Yeah. Seriously, guys. But obviously you can't do that because you have to be very patient. And 3 years of being in Japan, because I'm not naturally very patient, because I am half Indian, and the Indians are a bit fiery. Shout out to my peeps. Yeah, I mean, so 3 years in Japan taught me that how to kind of push things away and smile. And yes, but I think maybe you're not understanding exactly, because here's the reality, and what you're saying, it's not true. I'm sorry, I don't have Yemeni family. My name isn't, and all of the rest of this. But I also had a very, talking of surreal, I had as part of my conversation with him, he wanted me to list every country that I had been to in the last 10 years. And I kind of looked at him, I'm like, look, you have my passport, so you have the stamps in there. I'm honestly not going to try to lie to you, but I don't remember everywhere that I've been to in the last 10 years. I can give you a list, but if there's something in my passport that I forget, it's not because I'm trying to lie about it. It's just because I've forgotten. I travel all the time. So we did the list, and then he kind of looked at me and he's like, so I'm going to ask you a few questions. Have you been to Paris? Yes. Have you been to Munich? Yes. Have you been to Tokyo? Yes. Have you been to Somalia? No. Have you been to New York? Yes. Have you been to London? Yes. Have you been to Afghanistan? No. And it was kind of along those lines. A couple of places that were reasonable, and then somewhere that was obviously suspicious. And after about 5 rounds of that, it was about 5 or 6 rounds of that, I think we had Mogadishu, we had Kabul, we had, God, where else do we have? I don't remember now. I kind of blanked out.
Well, if you're
lots of places.
Flying into New York City, they'll throw in like Boston. That's very suspicious.
I have been to Boston. I'm sorry, Boston. I've been to your marvelous city. I did interview. I actually talked to people who were dealing at the time with life extension therapies and genetic therapies. I did a whole series of interviews about that, and that was fascinating. I absolutely loved that. So I've forgotten Boston. See, this is what would get me thrown back into another 4 hours, because I forgot to mention Boston. And there you go. He's looked me up online, and but you've been to Boston. Why didn't you mention that? So at the end of that, I turned around to him after about 5 rounds and I said, listen, I do understand what you're trying to do here. And he looked at me, he's like, what do you mean what I'm trying to do? I'm just trying to find out where you've been. And I said, well, your average traveler's trajectory doesn't tend to be Paris, Rome, Mogadishu. I mean, there probably are some people who take that trajectory, but there aren't very many of them. And I do understand with your choices, you're trying to find out if I've been to sensitive countries where maybe there are things going on that you are concerned about. And I want to assure you that apart from the places that are listed in my passport, which frankly are bad enough already, I haven't been to any of those other places. And he looked at me kind of all indignant. He's like, what do you mean? I'm not trying to trick you. I'm just trying to ask you some basic... And you're like, yeah, guy, and you've also been trying to persuade me for 4 hours that I'm Yemeni. I mean, come on. And that's what I wanted to say. But of course, what I did is I smiled and I said, oh, I'm sorry. I must have misinterpreted you. Please forgive me. Please continue.
You have raised the bar, Warren.
Oh, no, come on.
Wait, no. You have raised the bar, and I'm glad we have had this up on the screen before. When did this book come out?
So that came out in March 2025, which is a very long time ago. And I do apologize to anyone who's been kept waiting. But the second book comes out in May 2026, and the third book comes out in August 2026.
Do you have a cover of the next book?
I don't. Jake is working on it at the moment, so sadly I don't have that to show.
So just a couple of more months. So everybody, you have a chance to go get this now and read it and digest it and get ready for the second one in May.
Absolutely. And the second one is going to be a corker. It really is. It's going to be super, super fun. Even though I wrote it myself, it is super fun. I'm editing it and I'm laughing. So I'm having fun with it. And I'm not laughing at myself. I'm laughing with myself. I want to point that out.
It's a very important distinction.
It's a very, very important distinction.
Slippery slope from there.
Yes.
All right.
So if I can shill, please buy my book. It's fantastic. I would love it if you would read it. It's reasonably priced. And you get a free spin-off novella if you sign up for my newsletter,
which I've just downloaded. So I'm very excited to read that.
No, please tell me I'd love to hear what you think of it.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you, Bugger.
One of my main characters says that a lot. You'll love her.
Bugger?
Yes. Bugger and
As
sod.
long as he just says it, that's okay.
She's a bit vulgar, but you know, she's earned it, believe me.
Fair enough. When you do get your new cover and your new book, send it to us, please.
Oh, thank you. That's very, very kind of you.
I'm assuming you probably have like a gajillion followers on Twitter or whatever, but go ahead and tag us in it.
I'm actually not on Twitter. Aren't we supposed to call that X? I'm not on Twitter. I don't have a gajillion followers anywhere, in fact, sadly. I do have a Facebook page, which is W E Singh Author. I am on Instagram, I think at W E Singh Books. And I was until 3 days ago on TikTok, but I'm now considering revising that opinion. But anywhere you see W E Singh, that's probably me. It'll either be W E Singh Author, W E Singh Writes, or W E Singh Books, depending on the platform. But I am there. And I also have a website, if I can plug that, which is wesingh.com, in that really imaginative way that us fantasy writers have. And if you go there, then you can sign up for the newsletter and get the free novella download as well.
So what's your Facebook again?
I'm going to get it wrong, aren't I? So Facebook, I'm fairly certain is, hang on, if you bear with me, I'm sorry, I should have had this up on the screen. See, that's how prepared the journalist is, the journalist who walked into a gun. This is how prepared he is. Where are we? We are W E Singh Writer.
All one word?
Yeah, W Singh Writer. And Jake, my lovely cover artist from the southern United States, has promised a finished copy of the cover by mid-April. But I guess I'll have the preliminary a bit before then, and I would be honored to share it with you if you would be interested in that.
Okay.
Well, if nothing else, I will post it on Twitter because I refuse to call it X, and Instagram. So for what little that will do for you, I will do that.
Well, thank you.
Anybody in the United States looking for W E Singh, S-I-N-G-H writer on Facebook, it doesn't come up.
Really?
Really?
That's extraordinary. Because I'm looking at it now and it says facebook.com/W E Singh Writer.
WESINGHWRITER.
Yes.
Nope, I got Vicky Wazing Crater and Wesson Gemsu Wesson Grader. And
they're all my clever aliases designed to fool people. That's really extraordinary. Well, I will have to have a chat with Mark and find out what he's doing with my profile.
Right.
And you know what? Tell him that you know a bunch of Yemeni.
Yes, that would probably win him over to my side, I'm sure. Well, that's extraordinary. Excuse me. I don't know why that hasn't come up because I'm actually looking at it, so I do know that I'm saying the right thing.
I will keep searching.
Right.
All right.
They're burying me. They're burying the truth. They're trying to hide the reality of carnivorous unicorns. It's not right. And fairy dice rule. Sorry.
Warren, thank you very much for spending some of your morning with us. I hope it's a nice day out there in Bangkok this morning.
34 degrees.
34? Hold on.
34 centigrade.
That's really nice. Wow, that's hot.
That's 90 or so, yeah.
That's kind of Thailand. So we're now in summer. So Thailand goes from winter to summer. There isn't anything in between.
That's it.
It's technically the cold season and the hot season. So we've just had the cold season, and the cold season was 26 degrees. That's the cold season. But it is actually not humid, so it's actually really lovely. It was only 1 month, but you kind of get 26, 27, and it's dry, so you can walk around without dying. Now we're in the hot season, and it's sweaty and sticky, but it gets hotter. So it will get up to the high 30s or maybe even 40 degrees. At which point in time, I'm hoping that I am back in the UK for a month and avoiding that.
So how many words are you going to be writing today?
Today I'm not going to be writing any. I'm going to be editing. Yes. So I am currently I got through to chapter 4 yesterday. I have 9 more chapters to edit before I can send out art copies to people to pick up all the mistakes that I obviously didn't pick up in the 3 rounds of editing.
Right.
When I did the 3 rounds of editing as a professional journalist, as a professional editor. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I hear you. Yeah. Okay. Well, awesome. It has been a stunningly interesting, and I mean that absolutely, hour and 15 minutes. And I thank you very much for your time. And we were able to give you a reasonable excuse to procrastinate from editing, as all of us want to do.
It was super fun meeting you both, and thank you very much for this opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, we hope to see you again. Look forward to it.
With pleasure. I'll be around. Okay.
And before we go, we will be back tomorrow night at 8 p.m. with B.F. Peterson.
8 p.m. again? You're killing me, Smalls.
Oh, I know V.F. Peterson. Or I know of V.F. Peterson.
Yes.
Well, join us tomorrow night. Hang out with us.
After we interviewed Mike Cahoon, I said, hey, who else do you know that would want to be on here? And he's like, let me tell you. And so you're going to know a lot, of people coming up.
Excellent. Well, I should be tuning in to watch
Join
every
us
one of your
tomorrow
shows.
morning and say hi in the chat, and
I shall do my very best.
You can say hi to Peterson.
Absolutely. That would be a pleasure.
All right.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Warren.
You're welcome. Bye.